I do think that there's a lot to look forward to. I think that they're going to do a good job regardless. And like I said, if they do decide to go down the route of actually including everybody, I think that game could be amazing. Welcome back, everybody, to Beers and Boss Battles, episode 13. Today's lineup, we're going to be talking about the Pokemon DLC, some other stuff regarding Pokemon, throwback game in particular. We're also going to touch on some of the stuff that we saw in Call of Duty at the end, if we find the time to do it. But as always, if you haven't done this one already, I'm going to tell you before this video starts to go down and hit that sub button. We also are doing a giveaway on one of our videos. It's the last video we posted. It's regarding the PS5 presentation. If you're interested in getting yourself a new controller, go check the channel. There's simple steps to follow. If you do that, you'll be entered to win that controller. But that is what it is. And
let your friends know, too, because then your chances of us, once we hit 100 subscribers, now somebody can get it. You know, the longer it takes for us to hit that 100 subscriber, the longer you got to wait. So maybe, you know, share it around a little bit, too.
Yeah, the more you spread the word, the easier it is, or the more likely, I would say, you are to get to where, you know, to where you need to be.
We can give it away.
Yeah, if you want to be in that spot to potentially win it, that's how you do it. You share it. You let it, you know, you let your friends know.
Tell them they got to give it to you if they win.
Yeah. So then you put them on, and they're like, all right, I'll sub to the channel, whatever. And then, yeah, there's steps. If you go check out the video, you'll see it for yourself. So as the usual routine goes, we're going to just talk about the beer we're drinking today before we get into this video too hard. Rob, you're usually our kickoff guy.
Well, you start us off. Let's switch it up a little bit. Yeah, man.
Oh, this is a flip-up video. Okay. All right, guys. I am drinking Conehead by Zero Gravity. Now, I drank this, I want to say like episode 5. It was pretty early on. I drank it a while back. Anyways, and then I talked about it again in another video not too long ago. And I was
let me see the can art a little closer. I want to see it a little.
It's got this little like hummingbird on it. The other
cool.
side's got this.
For the hops.
So yeah, and that's like so it's a 5.7 ABV. It's a pint can, obviously. Very good. So I can give you kind of the rundown on the back of the can. All citra hopped IPA brewed with a Pilsner malt. That's really cool. That gives it a better body, I think. An American wheat pours a beautiful golden haze and is bright and juicy on the palate. This beer might just be your Rushmore. Okay. Well, I'll say this. That beer is super good quality. Like I said, the body is a little bit different than that of the other IPAs. That might just be from the Pilsner, but it's good. It is really good. And it's kind of it's a good in between beer because, you know, the hazy IPAs can be kind of hard to get into, or those are really fruity ones. But that one is not a stretch by any means. It's just kind of sits somewhere in the middle in terms of like the different varieties of beer. But it's really good. That one's what I'd suggest. I was gonna say before I was showing off the can art, I was saying, like, you know, one of the episodes before, I brought up the name of the beer, but I couldn't think of the company. The company's name is Zero Gravity, but Zero Gravity has a ton of other options, and they're really good. Like, that's a super high quality beer company. Yeah, they're amazing. So it's, you know,
where are they from?
To just this. What's that?
Where are they from?
You know, I actually don't know off the top of my head, but I could probably tell you. Vermont. Yeah,
oh, nice.
It even says on the side, on this part of the can, it's like you can't really see it from this, but it's got this little maple leaf, and then it's got the recycle symbol, and it's like keep Vermont clean. So if you do decide to drink this beer and you're in Vermont, you know what they tell you to do. You got to keep that place clean. Don't just go throwing these cans anywhere. Don't really do it.
I mean, I would say, yeah, even if you're not in Vermont, maybe just be sensible and respectful.
For us, so we can drink more beer.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it is really good. Zero Gravity is a great company. So I was gonna say, like, just don't hold them to just Conehead. If you try Conehead and you're like, it's not really for me, don't judge the company by it. They have a ton of other options, and they're all really, really good. What do you got, Rob?
So, I just saw this on a whim where I went to pick up beer. So this is from Captain Lawrence. I can't remember if I've had one of their beers on our podcast or not before. I'm pretty sure I've talked about them, but they're really good. I forget where are they actually from. It's somewhere in, I think it's in Westchester somewhere, but I can't remember exactly where. And I don't want to tip this thing over looking for it and spill it. But either way, it's a pint. It's a classic lager. It's only 4.2% alcohol, so it's a little bit less than maybe what I'm used to. I mean, we've been getting IPAs forever, so IPAs I think generally have a little more alcohol most of the time. But this is a lager, and here's the thing too: I haven't tried it yet, so this is going to be my first sip right here, and we'll see what I think about it.
Hold on.
Are you ready?
Oh, that was close. Hold on.
All right, cheers, sir.
Cheers, mate. That's Beers and Boss Battles. Damn, that's good. That is good.
Yeah, this is solid. That's Yeah, no, that's pretty damn good. It's got a good aftertaste that I wasn't expecting. Very smooth, nothing like super powerful, like kind of like a subtle taste, but the aftertaste kind of bites you a little bit. It's got kind of a I don't know what I would compare it to. Maybe in a weird way, like what is it, the Fosters?
Okay.
Maybe it kind of reminds me of that a little bit in the aftertaste, but in a good way. I don't know if anybody listening is a Fosters fan, but it kind of reminds me of that a little bit. I am a Fosters fan. That one I know I've had on the podcast before. But yeah, man, pretty good.
Captain Lawrence is not really a letdown, though. Captain Lawrence, I feel like usually whatever you get from them is usually pretty good.
Definitely, yeah. And again, I think my uncle used to go to their first brewery where you can come in there and do sample testing and taste testing and stuff. And he used to talk to the owner all the time, and the owner's a really nice guy. But any beer I've ever had from them is great, and this one is definitely good. Smooth, like this is just a nice, good, solid beer. Like nothing too crazy. Like you could probably drink quite a few of these and just it'd be nice. Yeah. So I'm gonna definitely maybe I'll have some more thoughts as I get after I drink more of it.
I was gonna say, like looking at the can, it's got a very classic American beer style design.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, nice, clean.
The red, white, and blue for the trim and the accents and stuff. The white can. I don't know, like even the font they chose to go
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just got like that throwback kind of beer look.
Yeah, Americana kind of thing, Yeah, it makes you think of maybe the 60s or something or the 50s. Yeah. That is a cool design. The red, white, and blue. No, yeah, hey, that's why I bought it, honestly, because I know I like Captain Lawrence. I saw the can, it looked appealing to me. The other thing is I think this was a 4-pack, and it was only $10. So for a pint and $10 for a 4-pack's actually pretty reasonably priced. So, hey man, check it out if you like lagers. I'm enjoying it. It's pretty good.
See, that's the thing, man. For me, and I've said this before, I'll say it again. I mean, lagers are great, and pilsners are great. I'm usually into almost anything. It's just that it's really about execution, because the thing is I mean, it's not just true for IPAs. I mean, IPAs I think are a little bit more malleable in that way, that they can kind of just be anything. They really can take on so many different forms, between the ingredients and the way they choose to prepare it. So I think IPAs are a little bit more flexible in that way, but I mean, it's really true for a lot of those, whatever beer you're talking about, whether it's stout, pilsner, lagers, whatever. The thing is that there's very much a wide array. So it's always about the execution. I feel like if you can do something that is different enough, but also simplistic enough, and that's a hard thing to do. I think, for instance, I mean, Conad is a good example of something that does that, where it's different. It's definitely unique, and it definitely tastes really good, but it's right at home. So a lot of people that maybe aren't into IPAs, usually they're going to be like, oh, I could actually enjoy this beer. This isn't something so far to the park. For instance, if you're not usually into IPAs, I wouldn't suggest Ninja versus Unicorn to most people. If you're into IPAs, yes, that's awesome. But if you're not, then it's probably not going to be something you enjoy. If you're more into just classic lager, pilsner, you're probably not going to like that beer. But for this one, I think it does a good job. Captain Lawrence usually, yet again, I think they do a very good job at making beers that pretty much anybody can enjoy. I mean, that's why they're the company that they are, and I see them pretty much.
Yeah. And they're definitely willing to experiment and do some experiment, but that's how I would describe it now that I'm a little deeper in. This is kind of like a really refined lager. It has just a very refined, good, solid taste. There's nothing, I don't know. It's like, again, I was kind of comparing it to Foster's. I would say this is better than Foster's. Like, I would rather drink this than Foster's. Again, maybe you're not a Foster's guy, so that makes it still doesn't sound appealing to you if you're not into Foster's. But I would say if you like Foster's, you'll probably like this possibly even more. That was me passing it to my girlfriend who wanted to sip. I might have hyped it up too much. She's like,
No.
what do you think?
What is she?
Mini review, Lana. What do you think?
It's okay.
It's okay. She's not a big beer person. But
It tastes
hey, it got an okay from Lena, and she doesn't even like beer, so that's pretty good.
It has a good aftertaste.
Good, yeah. Isn't the aftertaste pretty good?
That's better than the actual drink, because the aftertaste is better.
Yeah, see, she picked up on the aftertaste too.
Okay, so now I guess
Yeah.
I've been looking as we're doing this. I'm kind of looking out a little bit more for those notes and things that are hitting in this beer. I mean, I wasn't paying as much attention to it as I was drinking it earlier, but it definitely has a little tang to it, kind of towards the end. Not the exact aftertaste. Let's say like right before what you're talking about. You have kind of that bite at the end of the beer.
Yeah.
This isn't there. It's kind of on the back end of it for sure, but it's good. And it's not, like I said, it's not overbearing enough where someone who doesn't like IPAs isn't going to like it. It is kind of in that ballpark. It's something I think most people are going to enjoy. I don't want to, you know what? I'm going to keep going on about this because this beer is something.
That's okay though. That's fine.
I told you in that one episode, this beer is probably in like my top 3 right now.
Wow.
So
that's awesome.
So I can really go on about this. I'm very excited to get into this Pokemon thing though. I know you are as well. We talked about this actually. So I'm going to give a shout out to us. Okay. You know,
shout out to us.
Screw the team Rob, screw the team Troy. We're going to, the fact of the matter is that we had a video and we had Sanjay with us that day, and we were doing a video about what you can find in our feed. If you're here with us right now and you're listening to this, you can find it down in those videos. There is a video where we talk about, it's called Reboot Activated, and we talked about a bunch of these titles.
What episode? I'm going to look and see what episode was that. That was episode 8. So if anyone's looking, it was episode 8.
Okay, so yeah, so if you bother to go and check this, check that out. We did actually talk about Pokemon Snap. It was one of the games that we chose to, throw in that selection. We felt like that was a game that really deserved the reboot for our time. We felt like was super successful and just was very deserving of getting it. So it's ironic in a way that now we're here talking about this, and that it really wasn't that far, it wasn't that far of a time between where we made that video and now where we are today. Maybe a couple weeks, if that. And
yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so it is cool, and I'm excited about it. I mean, granted, it was obviously a pretty small, small
teaser, kind of.
Yeah. So, but looking at that, right off the bat, what do you think of the graphics? Like looking at that. Now, granted, that's CGI, but what do you think of? What do you think of what they're showing?
So, for anybody that doesn't know, Nintendo announced and released a little, game trailer, a little teaser for Pokemon Snap. So there is going to be a new Pokemon Snap game. So based on the trailer, we would play it for you guys, but we've had problems before where we try to play a video and it's all like kind of laggy. So
you'll see bits and pictures. You won't see the actual video. So
yeah, so it's not even worth our time. But pretty much they kind of show it looks like it's staying very true to the original game. Like it looks like it's really following even down to like the sound effect of taking the picture sounded maybe if you put them side by side I would notice a difference. But based on my memory, it sounded the same. It looks like the graphics were really good, super colorful. The Pokemon we know and love. To me, it looked really cool. Again, it wasn't gameplay, but I wouldn't be surprised if the graphics end up looking something like that because we've already seen the other Pokemon games look pretty darn good. This kind of looked maybe a little bit better, but that kind of makes sense if it's a first-person kind of on-rail type of game where you're just kind of taking pictures as this navigates you automatically through the game level. So I wouldn't be surprised if the graphics end up looking something like what we saw in that teaser. But they did a good job of showing different varieties of Pokemon. Like I think at one point there's like a Blastoise eating an apple or something where I remember in the first game there'd be like bonus points. So if you could snap a picture of a Pokemon doing something like that, so they were kind of giving homage to the original game. So there's going to be factors in this game about getting the perfect snapshot at the perfect time with a Pokemon doing something.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I thought I walked away from the teaser trailer being very excited, being very impressed. And I'll be honest. Well, know what? Maybe now is a good time to pull this up and see.
Like to show
I don't know if they announced when it's coming out, but here we go. I'm right on Nintendo's website. We got the new Pokemon Snap. Oh, so to be decided, available to be decided. So we don't know exactly when we're getting it. We do know it's a Nintendo Switch game. So in that reboot episode that we spoke about, we were speculating, okay, a Nintendo Switch game would make sense, but also maybe it would be cool. And this was just an idea we had, was maybe integrate it into Pokemon Go or have it on your cell phone where you could take real world photos, which would still, I still think would be a cool idea. But obviously this game is a Nintendo Switch game. The Nintendo Switch doesn't even have a camera. So we're not going to be taking real world photos. This is going to be a lot more true to the first game, I think, based on what we saw. But here we kind of have like a little brief description here. Different environments. It's going to have a Pokemon photo dex. Let's see. I'll read this real quick. I'm not going to read through the whole thing. Travel to unknown islands with beautiful scenery, with like lush jungles, sandy beaches. The Pokemon pictures you take there will be used to build your own Pokemon photo decks. This brand new game brings the gameplay of the 1999 Pokemon Snap game for the N64 system to life on the Nintendo Switch system, with unknown islands to discover and different Pokemon to see. Yeah, it sounds pretty cool. Again, I'd like to play it for you guys, but we kind of can't. But I think it looks really cool. I do think it's cool that now look at this. I mean, a game that we were just talking about a couple weeks ago, wanting to see them reboot. Here it is. I mean, it's coming. We don't know exactly when. We don't know everything about it, but what we do know is pretty cool, and I'm excited about it.
I see. My thing is this. And I think this is the only real question that comes to mind when we're talking about this, is whether or not they're going to choose to cut out certain people or certain Pokemon and make it, a select, amount, whatever that is, or they're actually going to do the full extent of the Pokedex. See, I'll say this: if they choose to go down the route of including everybody, I think that would be in their best interest, because I think for a lot of the core Pokemon fans, why not? If you're going to make the game this far into the future, why cut out anybody? Make it where you can see every single Pokemon. Make it very much expansive. That's really what it is. The Pokedex now is so much more expansive than really it's ever been. So I feel like it'd be a crime to not include everybody. And I think that would also, and whether they do that right off the bat or they choose to, like as DLCs go along, like, oh, here's Gen 2, I mean, obviously we can tell by the trailer, it implies that I think you're going to get what I would assume is a national dex. And usually according to the Pokemon standards, the way that works is you have 400 Pokemon, and that's a variety of different generations of Pokemon kind of compiled together to create that national dex. Now, that being said, I don't know whether or not they would choose to expand on that, or like I said, if they're going to have kind of everything given to you at once. But I will say, by the graphics that we saw, I mean, I can only imagine, and also being that, the sprite work is already in, now not to say it's not refined, but it's already in Pokemon Sword, Pokemon Shield, and we've seen, not a lot of the new graphic work they've done with the Pokemon. So I can only imagine that a lot of those assets and things that they've already done for the game, they're only refining and making better for this game, because it is a very visual game. You're taking photographs. So, but I do think that there's a lot to look forward to. I think that they're going to do a good job regardless. And like I said, if they do decide to go down the route of actually including everybody, I think that game could be amazing. And also too, I mean, for a lot of those people that maybe fell off, yourself included, I know you played Let's Go, but for a very long time, you probably didn't, you weren't really up to date with Pokemon. You didn't care to be. And that, for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, no, I haven't been, yeah.
And that's totally cool. I totally understand that. But, here we are today, however many years, it said it's 1999, so that's, 21 years later. This game really could be, like you said, that homage to the original and bring a lot of that older crowd back in that still, that still has some interest in Nintendo. And I'm sure a lot of those people have Switches. And I think this would bring in, a new fan base. It would be also like kind of a blend of both the new and the old, offering something that's just like that shows likeness enough to the original, where, like I said, you could have that older crowd, but you also have all these new Pokemon that a lot of these newer fans are up to date with, that care to know about. And you're going to kind of pull in from both ends. And because it's such a different take on Pokemon, I mean, you do see, like, and I will say Pokemon's done a great job, a phenomenal job, if anything else, that they've done so much with the series, and being able to, they have Pokken Tournament, which is a fighting game, which is so much different than all these other fighting games. It doesn't follow a similar trend. It has its own style. There's a ton of stuff about that, and I'm sure we can get into that one of these videos. But they've also, they've created Pokemon Pinball, they've created Pokemon DX Ranger, Pokemon Mystery Dungeons, Pokemon Sword and Shield, and all these games take very different routes in terms of the gameplay. So to have something like this, like I said, that hasn't been around for so long, it is very refreshing. I think it's a good take on something that we've been missing out on for a very long time, something that I think a lot of people in that older generation, people that maybe, yet again, haven't bothered to follow, are going to be very much looking forward to.
Dude, here's something I would say. So I agree with everything you just said. Also, yeah, it's going to satisfy the old fan base, probably some of the new fan base. But I would say even people that maybe aren't even into Pokemon, I think would be interested in a game like this. Because I'm telling you right now, like my uncle, I think he kind of was an early adopter to the Nintendo Switch, but that was his first Nintendo system he had bought since, I want to say, the Super Nintendo. So, he played Nintendo, Game Boy, Super Nintendo, but when the N64 and PlayStation came out, he was right at that like late teens where I think he bought the PlayStation, and he was all in with the PlayStation because it was kind of like, this is a system geared towards adults, and he really vibed with that. And I think ever since then, he never got a Nintendo system. I think his wife may have later on. My Aunt Leslie, shout out to her and to my uncle. But yeah, so I want to say the Nintendo Switch, I think, is his first Nintendo system in a long time. And I honestly think he would totally enjoy a game like this because he's kind of into playing indie games, trying different things out. Like, he's very open-minded when it comes to different kinds of video games.
I was going to say, not to cut you off, but I did want to kind of give that shout out as due. If you guys are interested in seeing any of that content, anything retro, and really kind of anything in between, he does a ton of different games. He's at Gamer Chuck Steak. That's on Instagram. Yeah.
Maybe throw that down below, Troy.
Yeah, I'm going to put that there below for you guys, for all of you that want to venture off on Instagram. Like I said, if you're interested in just seeing some cool content and a variety of it at that, you're going to see that on his page. And also, while we're on the topic, I will say, obviously, me and Rob both have Instagrams as well. I'll post those beneath us. But we also have streaming channels, which I will, again, post underneath us if you're interested in coming and watching us as we play through Pokemon Snap, because I'm going to make a valiant effort to try to get that on stream and show you guys, kind of my experience.
That'd be awesome.
Do the playthrough. But even if it's not that, if you have no interest in Pokemon and you want to see some other stuff, we really do try our best to also have a variety of content out there. Everything from first-person shooters to role-playing games to party to everything. We have it there on our channels. And so I just wanted to say that because I know usually we do kind of cover that in the beginning, but we didn't get the chance to. But mainly, shout out to Gamer Chuck Steak. Shout out to your uncle. Super good. Yeah.
Oh, thanks, man. No, yeah, he's a really cool guy. Yeah, he's got a good variety of stuff. He's definitely into a lot of this like retro gaming stuff, especially lately. He's been getting a lot of that stuff. So if you got any interest in that, look him up because he's got a lot of cool systems, games, everything. But yeah, I think what I was saying before is that I'm not going to speak for him. Maybe he would have no interest in this, and he'll say, Rob, you're an idiot. You're wrong. But knowing the type of guy he is and being an open-minded gamer, different kinds of gameplay, being interested in different kind of experiences, I honestly think someone like him who has no interest in playing Pokemon or in that universe at all, I think he might be like, oh, a game where you're kind of taking pictures and trying to get that perfect shot. Like maybe that might be something fun to play on the Switch and it's exclusive. And so I honestly think it'll have a good appeal to people that maybe aren't even really interested in Pokemon per se, but maybe the gameplay itself is kind of attractive. Because think about it. I mean, you have a million different RPGs, you have a million different shooters, racers, sports games, but you don't really have games where you're taking pictures, you know, like a photography arcade style game. You don't have stuff like that. So it's something that's kind of unique. And I think it would probably interest people that aren't even necessarily into Pokemon.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. I think having a good pull factor for both ends of the crowd is going to be, you know, nice and obviously very refreshing. And when the time comes, we will, you know, obviously touch back on it as more information is released about the game. I mean, there's definitely some brief elaboration on what they're planning on doing with the game, but you know, it is very few and far between as far as what we know and the information available to us. So when the time comes, we will touch back on that. But in regards to Pokemon, we have a lot to cover. For the Pokemon Sword and Shield DLC that just dropped, I think it was yesterday or I think yesterday at like 12 in the morning, pretty much at the start of the day. And I gotta say, man, they did a very good job. I know we did kind of foreshadow it a little bit in one of our earlier videos, but now that it's here, and I gotta say, man, I would have loved to have Sanjay on this. I know he had his own things to do, but he has a lot to say about the DLC as it is, and you know, maybe in the future we can kind of, as things progress and you know they make updates and changes, we can kind of come back to it and we'll maybe even cover a little bit more. But we did want to make an emphasis on that today. They dropped their new DLC, and they have two in line. This being the first one, and then they have another one coming out late fall, early winter. We don't know exactly or at least I don't know personally the date that they choose to drop that. But this was a game, a DLC that I think was very vital for the game, because I will say, as a person who did play Pokemon Sword and Shield, and I'll be honest here talking about it, that I haven't invested the kind of time that I was prior, and I have kind of veered into different things. I'll say it did feel kind of stale. I feel like we kind of met a roadblock. They implemented the Pokemon Home thing that brought a lot of people up to the forefront, people that weren't available prior to the game. But because their validity.
So for someone like me, what does that mean? So I'll be the noob. So this is how this one's going to go. He knows about all this, and I'll be kind of the person who's not informed, and I am not informed. So very briefly, what is that? That's something in the game?
Yeah, so okay, well,
Pokemon
Home is an application that you can access via your phone or I don't. Maybe you can have it on your. I know it's through your phone. I think maybe it's compatible with the Switch. I don't think that you can actually have it on your Switch. But anyways, it's pretty much this application where you can load Pokemon from your earlier games, the 7th generation or the 6th, and you can load them into this base pretty much, and you can then load them from there into your Pokemon Sword or Shield.
Oh, we kind of talked about that in I think one of the last okay, now it's making a little more sense. Now I'm remembering a little bit. All right.
So that being said, it opened up a lot, but it didn't change a lot of the in-game stuff, right? So, I mean, you can bring up all these Pokemon, but unless you bred them, you're not going to be able to use them online. So, as I said, the validity wasn't there. So that I think was, I don't know, it was kind of counterintuitive to what people were looking forward to. But it was still good. It was a nice change of pace. But now with this, you're opening up new regions in the map. You're doing so much more. They're adding in Pokemon. You have this new Slowbro evolution. It looks really cool. I would say to all of you that are interested in that, definitely go check that out. There's a ton of cool info on that. I actually pulled up an article right here. So I have Pokemon Sword and Shield 1.2 update patch notes. Isle of Armor. That's the name of the DLC. So here it says, a brand new Pokemon Sword and Shield update is available to download and install right now on Nintendo Switch. That is true. It is available. Be very careful, by the way. I had heard a couple different complaints that people were saying that they downloaded the wrong update. So they were pretty much paying for a DLC and then had to buy again the version exclusive DLCs, because it's obviously according to which version you have. So just be very careful if you do decide to go and you want to get the DLC, whatever. If you want to get the game and then get the DLC, be careful. Don't spend your money if you don't have to.
So there's two different versions of the DLC,
There's one for Sword, there's one for Shield. That's from what I've heard online. That's kind of the gist of what I'm hearing. And I just say, for those of you that decide to do it, just be careful. Don't, like I said, don't spend your money.
Yeah, that would be a bummer, man.
Buy a whole DLC for pretty much nothing. It's not something you're going to be able to use. So So it says skip to the end of this. Oh, well, whatever. Okay, alternative. You can stick with a little longer. Okay, so the 1.2 update has added in the game's first expansion pass DLC, the Isle of Armor. Along with being able to play through the new DLC if you've bought it, plenty more has been added to the base game, including a new Pokemon, or including new Pokemon, more plural. A number of fixes have been made to the game too, which should make for an overall better experience. Let me kind of, I don't want to give you guys the whole rundown of the article. I'd rather just kind of skim through if I can. Okay, so the new Pokemon. New Pokemon will now appear in the base Pokemon Sword and Shield, even if you don't own the Isle of Armor. So that's a big thing too. Now, whether or not you actually own the DLC or not, you're gonna have more or less access to these Pokemon. It doesn't matter whether you have the rest of the map, or it doesn't matter. It makes no difference. You're gonna be able to still have these Pokemon. So that might be an incentive for you not to buy the DLC. But you should be able to discover, battle, and catch new wild Pokemon with the network connection switched on. Other changes and fixes. So, on top of the Isle of Armor and new wild Pokemon appearing, other changes and fixes have been made to the game. Link codes, for example, are now 8 digits long. So, for a lot of you people that sit on Discord waiting for people to open up their raid so that you can get in and get a Pokemon, that digit just went from 8 to 4. So, that might actually increase your chances of getting into that raid battle or not. Now, if for all of you that have no idea what I'm talking about, on Discord, there is a certain chat channel that's open for Pokemon people to get involved, to get to know each other, and also get involved in raids where people have their shiny Pokemon locked. I can maybe get into that in another video. It does take a little while to explain in terms of the process and how you make that happen, but there are shiny Pokemon, which are color variants of the original Pokemon. They're extremely rare, and people have found a way to pretty much exploit the game's date and time system to create it where they have a scenario made that they can choose and decide which Pokemon they want to have shiny, and there's a certain amount of Pokemon available to you in each raid spot. So this Discord is pretty much dedicated to creating that room for people so that people can be like, hey, I have, a shiny Den 83, and I have a shiny Den 47, and we can, if you want to join mine, I join yours, kind of thing. And for all those people that are like, oh, I don't have a shiny Den, you don't need to have one. You can get involved in these regardless. But what I'll say about this is that a lot of times what these people choose to do with their raids is that they open it up for people, yes, and sometimes it is public. It's a free-for-all. Whoever gets in, gets in. But there are other cases where people make a code, and you have to DM them or whatever, and sometimes they post it in the chat feed on the Discord. But usually what happens is in that case is it's up to you to, as fast as you can, speedily type in whatever that code is. But now that we're jumping from 4 digits to 8 digits, that is going to drastically change who's getting into those raids and who's not. And it sounds weird, but
Can I just say something for the record, though? Nintendo and Sony need to step up. Well, forget Sony. Nintendo needs to step their damn online game up, like, for real. Like, on a side note, their online interface, just in general, let alone forget this game specifically, it's just, like, so stuck in the past. It's like Xbox One was probably better than this. That was just my side little note rant that I wanted to say. Like, their online is so bad.
So, well, okay, so this, and I'm reading this in the article. Now, I don't know, this might be a little more ambiguous in terms of their description, and maybe I'm interpreting this the wrong way, but the way I'm reading this, it sounds like maybe they've mitigated that problem with the validity of Pokemon that you brought up from the previous installments. I don't know for sure, but as I'm reading through this article, it does say you can now use Pokemon from previous generations brought in from Pokemon Home, and then in captions it says, as long as they're eligible. Now, I don't know. Now, the reason, this is kind of where the question lies, because the eligibility of those Pokemon was simply based on whether or not they were from Gen 5, so Pokemon Black, White, Black 2, White 2, or prior. Now, anything from that point previous, you're no good. It's not valid. But 6, 7, the 6 and 7 generation were all of those Pokemon available to you. Anything you caught within those games or hatched or whatever, those Pokemon were valid. So I don't know if that means the eligibility based on that or what. I would assume that's what it means. So I'm fingers crossed here, guys. And I'll be the first one to say it. I haven't bothered to play it yet. I'm going to try to get into it whether it's tonight or tomorrow, or maybe even some point this weekend. I do want to try it out for myself. But if that is the case, I'm ecstatic. And I'll just to kind of emphasize what I'm talking about here. And this is something, yet again, we brought up in an earlier episode, but there was for a good reason, there was a cutoff for these Pokemon. So you brought up Pokemon and they were no longer eligible, and that was fine. So you come from like the older stuff where you could edit and create Pokemon online and bring them into your game. You kind of cut that out. Now you have these newer generations of Pokemon, and so they make it like, okay, if you catch these Pokemon within our games, they're valid. And then when Gen 8 came out and they created Pokemon Home, the eligibility of those Pokemon was thrown out the window. So now they're no longer, you couldn't use them online. You could have them in your game, sure, for the Pokedex reasons, but you couldn't actually use them online, which is a very big function in today's Pokemon meta. It really is the Pokemon meta. Every competition, more or less, there are LAN competitions, but the majority of them are online. So that is a very big factor, whether or not you can use said Pokemon. If that's the case, like I said, I'm super happy about that, because for me, this is a very big connection. And I've always felt that way with Pokemon. I think that's a huge pull for me. I think that's what gravitates me towards this game, is that you have a connection with these Pokemon. You know, you have that certain Pokemon that was really hard to catch, and you were able to get the right Pokemon. You were able to get that shiny, whatever it was. And, you know, to have that being really taken away from you, and for the game to tell you, hey, these Pokemon are no good, that's a killer for me. So if you can kind of reestablish that, that's great. And I mean, even for you, like, I mean, you as a old Pokemon fan, you know, you're someone that really didn't keep up with the games, someone that really was just into the initial installment. I mean, you know what it's like. You catch these Pokemon, and it's like, for a game to be like, hey, you caught all this, you did all this work, it means nothing. I mean, it's kind of, you know.
Well, I've talked about before, I'd like to get my buddy Graham on this, and we'll have a Pokemon episode, also obviously with Sanj. I think that'd be really cool to have. But I know he was very outspoken about being upset about not being able to bring over certain Pokemon. And from what I've heard, this DLC may do something about that, right? So,
well, yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I think if they can eliminate that that issue, that problem, whatever. Yeah. And like I said,
it'll make a lot of people happy, I think.
I think so. I think that'll kind of be like, you know, just a tip off to all of us true fans that have stuck with it, that bothered to like go out of their way to catch rare Pokemon and bring them up. I think that's a big deal for me. And you know, beyond anything else, if I can make a very good comparison to other games, for those of you that maybe don't understand the value in these Pokemon, I'll put it to you like this. Think about, your money is equivalent to your time, right? I mean, they say time is money. And so whenever you spend time and or money, a value is created in whatever you're doing, right? So if you spend a lot of time in Fortnite grinding on a battle pass and you get these skins, if the next season rolls around and they go, hey, well, none of those skins you can't use those online anymore, that would be a huge bug for a lot of people. People wouldn't be happy about that. And it kind of...
Dude, I'd probably stop playing the game, honestly, if they did that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that's like a given. Yeah. If they were to say, hey, you worked for this and now it's no good, I mean...
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I was at. And I think that was a big deterrent for me, because when I had found out, when the Pokemon Home thing came out, I was very excited. But then not too long after, Sanjay was the first one to report to me. He was like, hey, man, like, you know, all these Pokemon you brought up are no good. So that was so
lousy, man. I'm sorry. That's so lousy.
That it was. And that's kind of why I was like disappointed. And I think the game got stale, because it's like, I mean, that was a huge thing. Why bring up all these people if they don't mean anything? What, I have to breed them now?
And this is over how many games? I mean, this is over 10 plus games, something like that, right? I mean, depending on who you are, if you played all of them, right? And you carried over a bunch of them.
Well, so, okay. To kind of reiterate, there was a cutoff prior already. That's kind of why it's even more frustrating, because you had so pretty much if you played Kanto, the original blue, yellow, and red, or green, or whatever, and then, you know, Johto, silver, crystal, gold, Hoenn, Sinnoh, Unova, anything from those range of generations was no longer available. Like, you could bring the Pokemon up, yes, but you could not use them online. They were not good at all. No, like, they literally, you were given pretty much, there was a little symbol that was granted to each Pokemon that was eligible. So for the Pokemon that weren't, you wouldn't have that symbol. And like I said, anybody from those prior generations was no good. But from 6 and 7, they did create like a system, which was that stamp system where you have eligibility for Pokemon, and then they removed that again for Generation 8. So, I know I'm jarring on very hard about this, but this is
I'm smirking because Lena wanted me to hand her Sour Patch Kids, and she was like trying to be very discreet about like whispering and everything, but I don't know if the bikes picked it up or not, but I'm just smirking.
I didn't pick it up, so hats off to Lena for being discreet. No, and like I said, I mean, I don't want to like go on about it forever, but I do think it's a major factor for a lot of people. And to beyond just the example I can give with Fortnite, it's pretty much any game you invest time and money into, for them to come out and be like, hey, nah, that can either ruin you or really make for a great change. But in this case, I don't think it made for a great change. I think it really deterred a lot of those people that were involved and invested, in myself included, in that game, to really try to push on. Because it's like, well, then what's the guarantee for me to have these Pokemon available to me in Generation 9 or 10? I mean,
why invest all this time and effort if you're not going to be able to carry them over, where in the past you were able to carry them over? I mean, maybe there was one cutoff you were talking about, but generally speaking, like, it paid off in the end to invest that time because you'd be able to bring them along.
Yeah.
Whereas now all of a sudden you can't. It's like, what the hell,
Yeah, and so that's why I'm so big on this. And for me, as a very core Pokemon fan, and I'll say I'm not as core as Sanjay and Graham are. And when we get them on this, they'll be able to tell you themselves. You'll know right from the second they start going on about it. But I definitely have been following the games, and I've definitely stayed true to that series. And for them to have that kind of response to people who maybe were exploiting their system, I don't think it's really fair for the rest of us. And I don't even know that was the reason why they made the cutoff for Generation 8. But that being said, it seems like now in this new DLC, they're trying to, yet again, mitigate that and make it better for people. Now, as I'm reading along, it says a battle regulation mark. So I assume that's kind of that similar stamp thing that I was talking about on the Pokemon, can be used on these Pokemon at the battle tower so they can be used online. So that really, if you can bring them into the battle tower, I guess, I don't know whether or not you have to actually fight with them. The battle tower is an NPC or a PvE version of the game where you go on, you face multiple opponents in succession, and you get rewards for doing so. You get battle points, BP, and those, you can use that. It's a currency system to buy TMs, ability capsules, a huge slew of different items to choose from. You can use the currency to buy those things. Now, I'm looking down right here. Now, we're looking at the patch notes, and it's saying Part 1, the Isle of Armor, has been released to download content. Customers who purchase whatever additional Pokemon now may appear. Battle regulation marks. So, so while I'm reading this, so it does. It solidifies what we're talking about. It says Pokemon carried over from other regions via Pokemon Home can now participate in online competition and ranked battles. Now, another disclaimer, I don't know if this includes every single Pokemon that you bring up. Because as far as I understand, whether or not they're a dex entry or not, these Pokemon that are brought up, that doesn't mean, as far as I know, that they can be used online. I think there's a select few Pokemon, or not select few, but a select Pokemon grouping that can be used on ranked battles. So I don't know if that includes them or it's actually just saying everybody. Yet again, I haven't tried it, so I'll find out when I get there. A battle regulation mark can be replaced on the Pokemon at the battle tower in order to participate in online competitions and ranked battles. So yet again, I think that has something to do with the battle tower. I think maybe you participate in it. That gives you your mark. It validates the Pokemon. Yet again, I'm not really sure. I'm going to have to check it out. Okay, so there's an addressed issue with online battles. We fixed an issue with online battles where the battle results could be arbitrarily invalidated. So, um, that's kind of open for interpretation. So that I've never really ran into that issue with arbitrary results for the battle. I have seen some funky things where people would back out of battles and you'd be granted a win just based on the fact that they backed out. Kind of similar to like other games where if you're in an online,
Makes sense. I mean, right? I mean, that makes sense.
yeah, and a lot of people like rage quit halfway through the battle and whatever.
That's annoying. You should be penalized. If you quit halfway through a battle, you should like lose some of those battle points or whatever the hell they're called.
In the ranked system, it works similar to a Paladins, to a Siege, or Rainbow Six Siege, that's what I was talking about, where based on your win and or win and lose ratio, that would determine your rank. So you would be in silver too. If you won more and more and more, you work your way up to gold eventually, then platinum, and diamond, and whatever. Now, I'm not really sure what they were saying with arbitrary results. Like I said, I mean, I've seen funky things where someone will drop out of a battle and you'll get the results, like you'll get the win, but it's not granted to you right away, and you kind of have to wait. You'd have to like log out and log back in. Whereas
maybe that's what they mean.
So I guess, yeah, maybe they were just trying to like expedite the process of you actually claiming the win. Yet again, I'm not really sure, exactly what they mean. But now I'm actually looking right now. I'm looking at an image of the new section of the map. And I gotta say, man, it looks really cool. So it's kind of like, from what I'm looking at right now, the Isle of Armor is a very like, it's almost like a cove where there's like little tunnels and there's a lot of water and partition between the islands. And it looks really good. And Sanjay was actually talking to me about it, and he said that it seems very big. And maybe that's just perception there, where, just having been in the same regions, the same towns, the same places for so long, seeing something new does seem so big and grandiose. I'm not exactly sure. And I'm going to say it again. I have to play it. So I'll tell you when I do. But it does look nice. The aesthetic is very good. And just seeing that the game is doing a good job at really taking care of the core issues, but still providing new content, new things for people, and expanding the game in the way that they are, I think is great. I mean, Rob, what do you think? I mean, would you say that most games nowadays, because I'll be honest, I think they do one or the other. I don't think usually it's one of two things. I think it's the games prioritize making new content and don't fix core issues, or they spend too much time, maybe not too much time, but they spend the time fixing the issues but never really provide much more in terms of content or
yeah. No, I totally agree. I think a lot of games are notorious for, like you said, they kind of go either which way. It's almost like, let's give them new stuff and maybe they'll kind of forget about some of their complaints. Or it's like, well, let's fix the complaints, but they don't offer you anything new. What I would say for comparison, Fortnite, I think, I don't know. Well, okay, so for the record, there's a new Fortnite update. We'll have an episode dedicated to that very soon. There's also been a new update to Modern Warfare. I would say, now I have not played the new Fortnite update. I have played the new Modern Warfare update. I would say since Warzone, actually specifically Warzone, Modern Warfare Warzone, I would say specifically I think Warzone and Infinity Ward do a very good job of giving you new stuff and fixing core issues. Okay. Whereas I felt like for a long time, and maybe with the new update, it'll be different, but I feel like Fortnite has been a little bit, let's give you new stuff and not really fix some of the core complaints. Mm-hmm. Whereas maybe with this new season, they'll address some of those things. But I feel like, yeah, I want to give kudos to Infinity Ward with Warzone, because I think they do a really perfect job of addressing current complaints, but also offering new things. Yes. And again, I don't want to go on we'll get back to Pokemon, but I just for those two examples right there, I wanted to give a little bit of a different perspective on, because I think Fortnite has done a good job. They give you new content all the time, but I think some of those core problems that are still kind of there. And I, like you said, I think there's so many games out there that suffer from that.
Yeah, and that's, I think, a big holdback for a lot of games where these things aren't addressed, or maybe they are, but they're not addressed quickly enough. Where
or in the way that you were looking for.
yeah,
It's
it
like
doesn't
kind of like you're
follow.
looking for A and they give you B,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, and so I'd say I agree 100%. I think Call of Duty is maybe one of the only companies that does prioritize both ends. Now, I will say
I wouldn't even say notoriously. I'm specifically talking about Warzone. I wouldn't even say that their track record for their other
okay,
Call of
you're
Duty
right. You're
games
right.
is great.
Let me
I would
rephrase that.
specifically say Warzone, they've done a really good job with.
Yes, I that's what I yeah, you're right. I mean, Warzone, that's where I think I could apply that statement. I mean, they do a very good job, and it's funny because even when in this episode that hopefully I don't know for the
Honestly, dude, I think we should
before.
scrap it. I think we should scrap it, honestly.
wanna
So
put
for
it
the
out.
record, we recorded a whole video talking about what the update was going to be before it came out. And we haven't been able to post it. So now posting it might be a little tough because it's kind of a little bit before the times, but I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see.
What we do with
We
it.
might just put it out there for you guys that are interested in some new content. We might just
Maybe.
whatever. I think, and I'm on the side of if I can give you guys as much content as I can, I'm all for it. We really do aim to do that. And you know what? I'll touch on this just quickly. While we're kind of on that topic, I know that we had said in one of our previous videos that we were going to really try to segment the videos as best we can. We have been very, very busy between the two of us.
Yeah.
This guy just started a new job. I've been very busy at my current job. And even on the outside, we've been trying just relentlessly to push this channel, to create opportunities on our streams, to do so much on the other ends that really we don't even get the time to talk about during our podcast. But we want you guys to know we always have that best interest in mind, and that we really do try to give you guys the best content we can. And that, if the time arises where it makes sense and we can really dedicate a little bit more time, we're going to do even more with it. But we didn't forget about that. We are going to try to break the videos down as best we can and create.
And for the record, all the editing right now is on Troy, whereas if it was more fair, I could do some of the editing myself, but right now I have a pretty outdated computer. Right now with this new job, hopefully, and more work, I will be able to get more money and be able to buy a laptop. I just had to do a bunch of work on my truck. So money's been a little tight, and other episodes you probably heard me talk about wanting to invest in different, a laptop, lighting, camera, all that different stuff, microphone. And it's still coming. Maybe it's taking a little bit longer than I was hoping for, but we will be bringing that to you. And again, we're figuring out the format as we go, but we do know going forward, we want our format to be, we have our podcast, we have our videos, but then it would be nice to kind of break these up. So if you're not interested in hearing about Pokemon, you can kind of just skip that. And maybe we have clips of our episodes, that are more geared towards whatever you're interested in. So that's not something we forgot about. We're going to be doing that, but it might take a hair longer to get there than we had hoped for originally, because right now the editing is kind of all on him, which it's tough for him to do all the editing, but we'll get there. I'm hoping maybe by the end of the month I can get a laptop. So if I can get a laptop, then I can start editing. I can start doing that, because that was kind of the idea. He'll put the episode together and maybe I'll take clips from it, and it'll be, segmented for whatever game you might be particularly interested in. So and we didn't forget about it.
That's the thing is, I mean, I can say this, I can't get a guarantee on a time frame in which we would like to achieve this, but I can also say that we definitely have the right goal in mind, and that it is something we will achieve. But like Rob said, this is something that does take time, and the editing itself, because these videos are very long, between the download time, the file writing and uploading, it's a lot, and it requires a lot of my time, and I try to carve out as much of that as I can, but it is very difficult. And so as time goes on, we will progress. And
you'll see too that I did kind of experiment a little bit with it. Like if you go to our Beers and Boss Battles Instagram, you'll see I kind of took an entire segment of me talking about Last of Us 2, which actually, I don't know, by the time you're watching this video, it's probably out already, but in real time for us, it's coming out tomorrow. But that section of the video that I pulled out, it was an entire section of me talking about The Last of Us 2. That you can find on our Beers and Boss Battles Instagram. So I'm already kind of messing around with it, and we'll get better as we go.
Yeah. Well, besides the mishaps that we've had in our editing and our channel succession, we've kind of segued out of Pokemon. I guess my final thought on that would be, I do think that the game has a lot to offer now with this new DLC, with new Pokemon available, with the validity of these old Pokemon coming back. Like I said, I think that is the most major thing that they've introduced. And knowing that that is something that they're working on, something that they've chose to make happen, very huge. And actually, as a matter of fact, I didn't get to bring this up, but I do, as a kind of a side note now that we're talking about it. Part of this discussion really requires that I bring up, oh, wait, hold on. Part of the discussion requires that I hold on while Rob introduces this new Yingling beer.
I mean, no, you can continue, sir. I mean, I was just kind of throwing it out there that I'm switching it up. I'm going with this
a Golden Pilsner.
Yeah, man. Why not? I've had this before. I drank a bunch of these. Very good. Yingling, I like most of what they make. Here's another thing I will say. Yingling has great prices for their beer. My goodness, whether it's the black and tan or their lager, they just have freaking amazing prices, and it's very good. Like it's better than that kind of like Coors, Bud, Miller thing. I would say it's a little bit step above. Don't get me wrong. I love Budweiser. I'm one of those guys where I know a lot of people hate on Budweiser, but like a good cold Budweiser, I love it, man. But I would say Yuengling, good company, and you're gonna be comparably priced with probably Budweiser, Miller, and Coors. So go Yuengling, man. They're good.
I agree. I'm more into. I don't usually venture much outside of their lager. That's usually like what I'm drinking. But they're a great company. There's no doubt. I mean, there's a reason why you find Yingling as much as you do. But going back, so I didn't bother to mention this as we were talking about this DLC, but I do think it's important. So I'm just going to throw this out there. One, for those of you who know anything about Pokemon, there's something called Gigantamaxing. There's Dynamaxing, there's Gigantamaxing. Either way, that Pokemon becomes really big.
I look like a dog, dude. I just caught myself on the camera. I got my head turned when you were talking about that. I look like a freaking dog.
So curious about this Pokemon.
A curious dog.
As a person who's been out of the the Pokemon game for as long as he has, it's just so.
I'm like, Dynamax? What? What is this?
There's definitely some curiosity. And so I'll to simplify things for you guys that don't know what the hell I'm talking about. There's Dynamaxing and Gigantamaxing, and this has been a feature that was introduced in the beginning of Sword and Shield. This is something that came out with the game. It's pretty much a way to enhance your Pokemon for 3 turns. Your HP goes up. Your individual stats outside of the HP actually don't go up, but they can be increased depending on the type of move that you're using. The power of that move obviously gets increased accordingly. But here's the thing: Gigantamaxing is something that is or for a very long time was hard to come by. So you could have a Charizard, and not every Charizard could Gigantamax. There's only certain Charizards that could Gigantamax, and you'd have to find them in those raids that I was talking about earlier. But now they've introduced an item where you can actually take a Pokemon that doesn't have the Gigantamax feature and turn them into their version of Gigantamax. So it enables that Pokemon to get to that level. Now, the reason why Gigantamaxing is so much different than Dynamaxing is although they get the same exact ability or enhancement in health and things like that, the aesthetic of the Pokemon drastically changes, as well as certain move types. So if you're a Lapras and use an ice move, it has a lingering effect. If you use a Charizard and uses a fire move, it has a lingering effect. I think in some cases it also is particular to the move that is subsequent to that version. I'm not exactly sure on that. I'd have to really check that to validate that for you. But it is a very cool feature for a lot of you that have probably caught shinies that went out of your way to carve out time to get those, and then found out they weren't Gigantamax. To be able to pretty much make that Pokemon a Gigantamax is major, whether they're shiny or not. Maybe you have a really cool Orbeetle that you really love, and you just wanted to have them G-Max forever, and you never got that opportunity. They created that opportunity. It's called the G-Max suit. There was another thing I wanted to talk about, kind of escaping my brain here. Oh, that's what it was. There's a leak that somebody came out with. I think it was on Reddit or maybe even Cerebi. Huge shout out to Cerebi as well. That's SEREBII.net. That's a Pokemon run community website. They have everything. I mean, anything from leaks, updates, videos, you find it on that website. And I'll actually post
Sanj is on there like
vigorously. The word is vigorously.
Sanj
So,
is like,
and to be fair, I can't blame him because at times where I was really into Pokemon, that was my bread and butter. You go onto that website, you find out everything you need. There's forums, there's chat rooms, everything. And so for all of you out there that don't know about this already, that are into Pokemon, that is something you need to go check out. It has everything. Or maybe you haven't even bothered to explore some of the other features that the page has to offer. It does have, like I said, chat rooms, discussions, boards, rankings, everything. Besides that, though, in one of the leaks that was, I think, made on or made through a post on Cerebi and or Reddit, someone had mentioned that through these leaks we found that the Mega Stone, or the red and blue orb for Groudon and Kyogre to turn them into their primal forms, was found in the data mining. So here's why this is a big deal.
are those Pokemon you just
What's that?
listed? Are those Pokemon that you just listed?
Kyogre and Groudon are Pokemon. They're the original. They're the poster board legendaries for the Ruby and Sapphire games.
Those were Game Boy Advance games, right? Yep. All right.
Okay, so here's why this is a big deal. So when they made Pokemon Sword and Shield, they chose to X out Mega Evolutions. In Gen 6 and Gen 7, you had Gen 6 was when they introduced Mega Evolutions, and in Gen 7, whether that was Sun, Ultra Moon, whatever, they still had Mega Evolutions. And then Gen 8 comes around, and they're like, yeah, we're going to do Dynamax and Gigantamaxing, no more Mega Evolutions. So a lot of these Pokemon, and I'll say why this is even more of a big deal, a lot of these Pokemons were defined by their Mega Evolutions. These weren't Pokemon that were made to be battle ready without those things. Without their Mega Evolutions, a lot of these Pokemon were pretty much useless. From anywhere from Pidgeot to Gallade, Mawile, these are Pokemon that suffered greatly in the meta and were really enhanced in a major way by these Mega Evolutions. And for a game to say, hey, we're going to throw that out the window is big. But this is why it's crazy. If you think about the meta as it is now, if you're a vested Pokemon fan, you know that Dynamaxing and Gigantamaxing now define what this game is. But these Pokemon that you built sets for based on the idea that they were going to be Mega, now you built their stats to be Mega, and now they're not Mega. They do not translate well in the new meta. It doesn't. The stat ratio and the build does not correspond with Dynamaxing or Gigantamaxing. So the fact that there's a chance that this feature is going to come back into the game would literally blow this game up. It would bring so many people back. I think it's fair to say that they probably lost a lot of fans when they chose to take that out, because it's also, like I said, it's an aesthetic thing. It's literally the evolution after your second evolution. For all you stage 2 Pokemon, hey, we're going to bring you essentially to stage 3. And it's a concurrent thing in the battle system, or was, where you would stay Mega for the entirety of the game so long as you weren't knocked out. With Dynamaxing and Gigantamaxing, although I think it's a little bit more OP of a feature, it's only active for 3 turns. So now you're saying, hey, we're going to bring this feature back that majorly changes this game for a lot of Pokemon. It also opens up the idea that maybe they're going to add more Mega Evolutions. So I'm not going to draw on very long with this. I just wanted to say, for a lot of you Pokemon fans, it's worthwhile to bring up. And I think for all of you that aren't aware of it already, need to be made known. There is a chance that this is going to come back, and this is major news for the Pokemon community. We were really trying to get into this Modern Warfare thing, but I went on for a very long time about this Pokemon thing because I really felt like it was...
And hopefully all you big diehard Pokemon fans are very happy about it.
Yes, because there is a lot to look forward to here. That being said, in our next episode, we will touch back on the Call of Duty thing, but we also have a bigger thing on our plate, and that is the new Fortnite update that came out yesterday. There's a lot there, and we do plan to talk about.
Should we give them a teaser? So I have yet to play it.
Mm-hmm.
Troy's played some of it. So what? A teaser. What can they expect? Good, bad, indifferent.
Lot of water and a lot of different. That's
all right.
How we describe this season. It's very.
So if you saw our first video about Fortnite, and we had our buddy Brad in here, he was speculating about the rumors about there being a lot of water. So they turned out right. He was right on that one.
Shout out to Brad. Dude, he was very on point with a lot of those calls.
And I think he's coming back for the Fortnite update episode, right? That was me trying to cross my fingers. I didn't do a very good job.
It's more of like a 2-piece, like I'll hit you.
Yeah, I don't know what that was.
I hit you with my twisted gun. But no, I mean, if we can get him back in here, that'd be a great thing. But we definitely, either way, we're gonna have a lot to talk about in the next episode. Hopefully you guys stay tuned for that one. As always, thank you very much for tuning in. If you haven't done it, please do go down, hit the sub button, and I'm also going to give another likewise shout out to our video prior, and that is that
giveaway.
That giveaway. So for all of you guys that are interested, just go down in the feed of our videos. You can find it. It's the next one down in the lineup. It says giveaway on the thumbnail, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's a Beers and Boss Battle special, and that's actually our one and only podcast where we did a podcast where we actually sat together and we did the right thing. And
in person, yeah.
Content we covered. I really had a lot of fun with that video. But at the end of the day, even if you hated the video, there is a chance that you can win yourself a PlayStation 4 controller. And I know a lot of you busted controllers playing Fortnite and Call of Duty. So if you need a new one, you have a chance to do that. There are instructions in that video. Go check it out. And we will catch you guys in the next one. For the meantime, until that next episode, we hope that you crack one, sit back, you can relax, and enjoy some dope games. Yingling Golden Pilsner, some Conehead IPA brought to you by Zero Gravity.
Okay, I just want to say this. So now that I've had a couple of these guys, these are really good, man. They're really smooth. If you're in the mood for a lager, man, pick this up. This is a good beer, man. I had 2 of them, and it was freaking awesome. I'm saving the other 2 for another night.
So he's an advocate now. So you can tell by the end of this video, he's all in. And and if you guys are sitting back and you're cracking one and you're chilling out and you want to get woke, you break open one of them.
I don't know what the whole woke thing, but
we're all woke in mind, man.
Okay.
Woke, you know what I'm saying?
All right.
Well, here's the thing, guys. We are very much looking forward to putting out more and more content for you guys. And as I said, thank you very much if you bothered to tune in and listen to me rant on about a bunch of bullshit Pokemon stuff. It is important for me and a lot of the other core fan base.
100%.
Hit us with that sub. We'll have a ton more coming out and a ton more to talk about. And as I said, we're going to catch you guys in the next one. Thank you again. Peace, brothers.